S shops all over New Zealand and Australia. And she's the creator of the Her Business Group and magazine. So, please welcome Anna.
Wow, thank you, Mike. It's wonderful to be here, and this is a very different platform for me. I'm very used to being the first speaker, and it's all a lot more serious, so perhaps I should have been first on the not second to last. But anyway, it's probably a little bit more of a serious story. I'll endeavour to give you lots of great examples, but I've sort of tried to identify some of the stuff that happens in my environment that I thought might be useful to a group like this, having not really known exactly what this group would be. So I can see you all having a lot of fun. I'm going to start tonight by telling you a little story that happened 3 years into my business. I started business in 1992, and in 1995 I was called in by Kmart New Zealand. I was doing a lot of their generic manufacturing. In fact, I was up to $2 million per annum with their manufacturing. And I thought, hey, it wasn't unusual for me to be in their space, it wasn't unusual for me to be out in their offices. But this day it was the head of women's wear for Australasia that said, hey Anna, I'd like to catch up with you for a cup of coffee, can you call in anytime today? So I did. In those days I used to drive with a Mitsubishi L300 van from Morrinsville to Auckland. I used to do my business in town, pick up the press from the press in Auckland, and then I'd head back down the track to Morrinsville where I lived and still do live today. On that day I stopped in at the head office of Kmart, sat down with the head buyer, and it was there that she told me that the 7-day, $2 million business that I was enjoying with Kmart was all over. So I climbed back into that van of mine and headed back down to the Waikato, and I thought, oh my God, what do I do now? So tonight I want to talk to you about the business of fashion. Because I truly believe that that is the difference, that is the thing that has set me apart in an industry that is fraught with failure. We are, and I work in an industry that eats its young for breakfast. We do not support, we do not collaborate, we do not align. Our world stops and starts within the parameters of the organisation that we run or the space that we operate from. It's quite unusual, and it's wonderful to actually have stepped outside. Whilst I have 30 sites throughout Australia and New Zealand, I have 3 in Australia and the rest of them are in New Zealand. They range from sort of Matakana up right through to Invercargill. I've truly seen the difficult environment that we have to operate in, and have started to move outside and do lots of other wonderful things that have brought the balance into the company that I run today. Some of the other hats that I wear, I'm a publisher. Not only have I published 3 books, but I've also run the Her magazine, a women's business magazine that I've had for about 8 years, but it was around for 10 years before that. I'm incredibly philanthropic. I love to call myself the prostitute to all charities. I'll essentially go out there and work alongside anyone that I believe has a strong agenda, a great vision, and is sort of leading the way in a domain that I can see that I can add some value to. At the moment I'm working with Women's Refuge in the Waikato, so that's all very foreign and new, but it's certainly a domain that I feel that I can sort of add value to. And the last hat I have is that I'm a mum. Whilst I built this business of mine over the 21 years, my children were very young. I started and they were sort of 1 and 3. They're now 25 and 22, so they probably can't be classed as children, but I'm essentially now looking at them to be my succession plan. So the guts of what I want to talk to you tonight is probably about the 4 things, or the 4 key steps to success that I've identified that set me apart in an industry that is very competitive. You know, and at the end of the day, I just make frocks. And there's so many people out there that produce frocks for this environment, in the Australian environment. So I've constantly got to look at how I set myself apart. What can I do that is different? So I've identified 4 steps, 4 steps that all begin with P to make it easy for you to remember. I'm going to work quickly through those. The first thing is push. You know, every day I get out there and I strive to be equally as good as any gold medalist. You know, and it's not about just working 40 hours a week, it's about working 80 hours a week. It's about loving what I do every damn day. And even after 21 years of being in this business, I still go to work and find that I love the people that I work with, I love the environment, I love the products and services that I put into the market. Yet so many people I work alongside, or nurture, or mentor, or endeavour to help aren't in that space anymore. They're truly not. So I do push myself, and I've had to get saying how good I've become at eking out a trade or eking out a business in the fashion industry, but that hasn't been without lots and lots and lots of practice. I remember my first fashion week. It was in 2002, and I was part of a group show where I showed with 2 other designers down at the Town Hall in Auckland. I was incredibly proud of that effort, and at the end of the show, one of the very capable buyers from Australia came up the back to see me and said, "Wow, Anna, that was a great show." She said, "You can have another look at your collection." So she went through the collection. I thought, "This is great, this is what I'm looking for." Orders across the ditch. She took one look and she said, "Okay, well, I'll watch what you do next year, and I'll watch what you do the year after. I'm probably looking at a 3-year plan before I place an order with you." And I thought, why would it take 3 years? Why would you want to buy this collection? It's great. But it is about practice. When I look at the show that I put on for Fashion Week this year, I was one of the top viewed shows for the TV3 on demand. Now that wouldn't have been the case in 2002. So this brand of mine is truly growing within the market, and it has been about pushing myself hard. It's been about becoming incredibly good at what I do, and it's been about practicing it every damn day. Now, along with that push, there also becomes perils. There becomes the risk of being in business, and there's a hell of a lot of risk. Whoever learned to ski without falling over? So it is about taking risks. It is about pushing yourself. So I remember when I first started to learn to ski, I was so damn scared of a snowboarder going into the back of me and me ending up with a broken leg and never being able to run the business that I love so much. I never got off the green slopes. But I managed to encourage my children to go through the whole process of lessons and pushing themselves and driving themselves on that mountain. So they are now incredibly competent skiers and love being in that space. So I suppose all of my time freaking out on that mountain was simply about growing those guys. And for me, failure is something that I'm not afraid of. There is no stigma in failing. For me, it is simply the pathway that I need to actually achieve the successes. So it is about failing hard, it is about failing often, it is about being okay with the tough stuff in business. I mean, some of you will have seen all the drama that unfolded around Fashion Week this year with that damn bear rug. I mean, I had a photograph taken that I submitted to the Herald of me sitting on a taxidermy bear rug that had been killed sustainably by the Canadian government. But that did not matter to some of the animal activist groups that are out there. And I came under massive attack, I really did. And that was incredibly frightening. I've not seen the power of the digital platforms to attack in the way that they did. And it wasn't so much about me that I was worried, it was about my children, it was about my properties, it was about those people that were working in my retail environments because the attack was so incredibly vehement. And so many people say to me, how the hell did you cope with that? And you do develop an incredibly thick skin. You do develop an ability to manage the challenges as they come along. You do develop an ability to look at them for what they are, say very little or say exactly what you want to say and move on. And move on. So you never hang around to dwell in that difficult stuff because honestly, if it doesn't make you stronger, it's simply going to kill you. It really does. And I really saw that with that rug this year. And tough conversations leads me to the next P, which is people. For me, my management of people, I work with 120 women that run my retail environment and work at my head office. That's 120 agendas, hidden agendas, that I have to work with every damn day. I've learned how not only to have the tough conversations, but also how to think in a very black and white way. I often talk to people around that I have taught myself to think like a man. Often people will say, "No, Anna, men only think about 3 things." Well, they think about 4 as well. But the reality for me is I've learned to think in that very black and white way. So when I'm dealing with challenge within my business, it's incredibly empowering and enabling for me to be able to take women through the steps that need to happen to actually get them to continue to achieve the outcomes that I need within my business without getting wrapped up in all the emotional bullshit that can go on when you've got a group of women endeavouring to deal with a challenge, because they will analyse it to death and it can take days and days to get some sort of resolution. The other thing I have done with people in my environment, because I am so dependent on these great girls, is that I've created platforms of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneur being those people that want to bring their dream and vision to life from within inside my platform. Our top earning girl who works in a South Island store is now earning over 100K. Now that's unheard of in retail. You know, she's only got 2 other girls that work alongside her. So for me, I look for these great girls that fit our brand story and are really wanting to actually create success within my environment. It's not just about a retail job anymore. And a lot of those girls have been in our environment for up to 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 years. And that is unheard of in retail, especially given that my stores are remotely located. I'm not there to spend the time, chew the fat, and keep empowering and working with them every damn day. So they've got to motivate themselves on a daily basis, and that comes from creating these wonderful platforms for them. And those platforms take me to my last P, which is pain. You know, success is truly about taking away people's pain. And when I look at what's happening out there from a digital point of view, it is incredibly scary for retail, it really is, because retail haven't acknowledged the pace at which the digital platform are actually, they've not acknowledged the pace at which digital platforms are moving forward at. And that will be at their peril. It is at their peril. That old traditional model of retail is dying. It's absolutely dead. You know, no woman wants to go into that single cell, 60 square metre retail store where you've got that disinterested girl that's sort of behind the counter, probably texting. She's 15, 16, 17, 18, depending on where the minimum wage rates sit. And from the point of view of being connected or having connections with the customer, there's just no fit. It's all about the cheapest possible person being in that retail environment to keep the doors open for the day. For us, it was a very different model. It was about these girls that were a total fit with the brand, and it was also about providing platforms of success for them. So we created the birds of a feather retail stores. So instead of the single cell retails, which we are now closing down, we have these 600 square metre retail stores that have a collaborative partnership happening in them. There may be beauty, there may be flowers, there may be a cafe. There'll be all these wonderful things that are all about engaging and inspiring women and getting them back into retail again, because after all, they can just shop on the internet 24/7. So we've got to give them a reason to come back into our space. So the Birds of a Feather store not only drives our brand and drives the brand spec that I want to have, it's also got women back in and shopping again. Now the turnovers are 4 times what I can achieve in those small retail stores. So it's been incredibly smart to set those up. And that leads me right back round to the first story that I started that I opened this presentation with, which was my journey into Kmart New Zealand, and the news for me that it was all over as far as that $2 million 7-day business was that I had with them. You know, as I headed home that night and thought about, you know, what the hell I was going to do, because I had a large team that was employed on the dairy farm that we started operating from 10 minutes outside of Morrinsville, I absolutely knew that this would be the last time that I would let my environment drive me to change. I would always be, from then on, about acting to change my environment. So overnight, I set up the Annah Stretton retail brand, or it was Annah S retail brand in those days. It's sort of metamorphosis into the Annah Stretton retail brand. But the Annah S retail brand, and I went out there and I began to control my own destiny. It wasn't about letting others decide whether I would rise or fall. It was about me. It was, if it had to be, it was up to me. It was about me getting out there. It was about me starting to retail. So I started to retail, setting up small retail sites throughout the rural towns of New Zealand, because I knew it wouldn't be difficult to be the best in those towns because they were littered with hobbyists in retail. And then from there, it worked. I was able to then take the retail model into the cities, onto platforms like Fashion Week, and into the digital space. So that has been my journey, and those have been my sort of 4 key P's to success, I suppose. And I'll leave you with one of my favourite sayings: the brave may not live forever, but the cautious have not lived at all. Thank you.